Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. As you probably would have guessed from the title of this video, today we are diving in meal prep and meal planning. This is something that I have been doing since a few years now, and it has really helped me keep my health and nutrition in check, and also saves me a lot of time. So I thought I'll share some things that I have learned along the way if you're someone who is just starting out or if you're someone who is looking for some inspiration. So I started meal prepping when I moved from India to the States for law school. The curriculum was so demanding that I often found myself either going hungry or eating the only vegetarian Subway sandwich available on the campus. And soon enough, I realized that it was a really unhealthy lifestyle choice, but I also knew that I just didn't have the time to prepare 3 fresh meals every single day. And especially Indian meals that are a little elaborate and takes a little longer to prepare, I thought meal prepping is the best possible option for me, and since then it has almost become a weekend ritual for me. Now, I don't like to meal prep in the traditional way of preparing an entire meal and putting them in 5 different boxes. That is something that has not necessarily worked for me. Instead, what I do is prepare one meal that is complete and then some components and raw materials in such a way that it reduces my cooking time. Typically for lunch, we have the shortest time window, so that's one meal I really focus on while meal prepping, and I try to make it as complete as possible so that I don't have to spend a lot of time. And keeping this in mind is how I have structured all my meals. So for breakfast, it's generally eggs. It has a lot of nutrients, it's high in protein, and it is very easy to make. And if I feel like indulging, I'll make myself an omelette, but if I'm in a rush, I just boil some eggs. And for lunch, it is lentils, rice, some veggies, and a yogurt dish, either raita or lassi, which again is easy to make and really quick as well. For dinner, it is generally paneer with roti, rice, or some sort of vegetable. So, lentil is one of the things that I have to prepare because I have it for lunch. I generally prepare a batch, whether it's chole, rajma, or any other kind of dal. I'll also make some other lentil dish so that if I get bored midweek having the same thing, I have options to make something else, either batter or I boil some chickpeas or some mung beans so that I can make some salad out of it. Rice is something that I make every day, and the way I cook rice is just microwaving it with some water for 15 minutes and it's ready. I also make some side dishes. One dish of vegetable, I generally try to bake them because it is easier to make, and while the curry is simmering, it just prepares itself. I always have green chutneys, pickled onions. Green chutney is so versatile, so is pickled onions. It just goes with everything. Salads, wraps, even with plain dal and chawal, it just tastes amazing. So that's something that I always make sure to have. Sometimes I also prepare different kinds of dough, but for this week, I'm not gonna be doing that. This week, this is what my meal plan looks like. For lunch, I am preparing chole, and I am also preparing some besan chilla. For condiments, we have green chutney, coriander and mint, and some pickled onions. And for vegetables, I'm thinking of baking cauliflower, so we have that. And we also have some raita because I feel like that goes very well with chole. So that's what the meal plan looks like for this week. Earlier, I used to also meal prep one paneer dish, but I've come to this realization that keeping it in the fridge, then heating it, and then going in this loop again and again really takes away the flavor out of it. So lately I have discovered some really quick and easy recipes that I can make for dinner, and if you'd like me to share those recipes, do mention in the comments below. So I just realized that these items I still have at home, but these I don't, so I have to do a grocery run before we begin the meal plan for the week. Okay guys, we are starting with chole because that takes the longest to prepare, and after adding every few ingredients we have to let it simmer for 15 or so minutes, and while that happens we can always prepare some of our other items. So let's start with chole.
Like most Indian curries, the base is a mix of onions and tomatoes, so I'll start by chopping those up along with some ginger. I'm chopping a little extra because I'll be using them in a few other dishes later on. Next, I heat up the pan, add some ghee, and toss in some carom seeds, also known as ajwain. Trust me, this tiny step makes such a big difference in the flavor. Also, it is very good for stomach issues since we'll be adding a lot of spices later. Then in goes the onions, and I let it cook for approximately 8 to 10 minutes. And while that is getting done, I'm chopping the cauliflower for it to go in the preheated oven. I don't know why, but I find chopping a cauliflower such a chore. You know what? Add okra to that list as well. Then I add the ginger. I recently got this ginger grater and I love using it so much for some reason that I have just completely stopped using the paste. Then I add the garlic paste and again let it cook for another few minutes. Meanwhile, I spread the chopped cauliflower out on the baking pan, drizzle some oil, sprinkle turmeric powder, red chili powder, garam masala, coriander, and cumin powder, and then off to the oven for 30 to 40 minutes. Pro tip, cut it into smaller pieces so it roasts up perfectly.
Okay, story time. I just realized that I put all the pans in the oven for some time just because I was not able to find space for it, and I'm using it after a couple of weeks and I completely forgot that I had pans inside the oven, and I just preheated it with all the pans inside, and I freaked out the moment I saw it because I don't know what could have possibly happened, but I've just put them all on the floor now to cool down a little bit. But oh my god. Yeah, welcome to my clumsy life. But the good thing is that the chole is looking good so far.
Now that the cauliflower is roasting, it's time to add the tomatoes to the chickpea curry before mixing in all the spices. When it comes to Indian cooking, if you can master the onion to tomato ratio and understand which spices work best with different ingredients, it all starts to feel a lot less complicated. After adding the tomatoes, we add the salt, turmeric powder, chili powder, and of course, chole masala.
The chole has to simmer for another 10 minutes and the cauliflower is inside the oven. So we have to do some more chopping for some of the other items that we are thinking of preparing.
We've got the time to prep some sides that'll elevate any meal and can easily last throughout the week.
In order to not cut my fingers,
first up is raita. I'm grating some cucumbers since we've already got our chopped onions ready. Once I use chopped cucumbers instead of grated cucumbers, and I can say that grated cucumbers are a much better choice for raita. Also, I'm using regular yogurt for this because I really like that tangy sour kick. I have loved yogurt since I was a kid, so I never really miss an opportunity to whip this up.
let's do a taste test. Needs a little bit of salt and some coriander leaves. And I'm thinking some mint leaves wouldn't hurt, so some mint leaves as well. Once I made the green chutney with coriander and mint, and I probably didn't wash it properly, and the entire time I was having the chutney, it felt like I'm having dust. The bigger knife would help.
If you want to take this up a notch, you can add a tempering of mustard seeds, curry leaves, and cumin seeds. This pairs beautifully with plain white rice, quinoa, and you can even swap up the regular yogurt for Greek yogurt if you're really looking to add some extra protein.
Let's do a taste test now. Very good. One item completely done. You have no idea how scared I am of these. I once cut my finger with this. I wasn't too careful and that was one of the worst painful experiences ever. Now I'm very careful and I just throw these out as soon as I'm done with it.
Now the curry is ready for chickpeas, so I'm just gonna add the chickpeas and then again it'll simmer for about 20 minutes with some water.
Okay, this right here is my secret ingredient of making the chole really delicious. This is dried mango powder. We call it amchur in Hindi, and this completely changes the game. I like mine to be a little sour. This helps so much with that. I love this for my chole recipe, and I do not shy away from using it as much as I want.
As I mentioned earlier, having few alternatives really help to keep the meals interesting. This is really easy to make. I take 125 grams of besan and add salt, turmeric powder, chili powder, and of course the chopped onions, tomatoes, and some coriander leaves, a little splash of water, and we are done. This pairs perfectly with some green chutney or just some good old tomato ketchup. And if you want to add more protein to it, you can also add some crumbled paneer or your choice of cheese inside it, and this makes for a complete meal. Our cauliflower is finally ready. So next step, we are making two staples that I always have in my kitchen: the green chutney and pickled onions. For the green chutney, it is just a bunch of coriander, mint leaves, ginger, half an onion, lemon juice, salt, and green chilies, which of course I forgot. I think every Indian household has its version of green chutney, but this one is my go-to and it just complements about everything. Also, if you add a spoon of yogurt to each serving, you can have a slightly different but equally delicious spread. For the pickled onions, I start by boiling some water with vinegar and sugar. I add the chopped onions, some peppercorns, and a bit of salt, and then just add the vinegar water once it has cooled down. And this lasts me easily for about 2 weeks.
Alright guys, that's it for today's video. I hope this meal prep gave you some inspiration or ideas if you're someone who is just starting to meal prep, or if you're looking for meal prep compatible recipes. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and like this video for the algorithm by hitting that thumbs up button down below. I'll really appreciate it. See you in the next one.